Keeping well. It's a bit chilly, and I hope you have a cup of tea or coffee or something of that sort, because here it's a bit chilly here. But we hope that you're keeping warm and safe as well in this season. Today's topic: data protection and privacy. A very important matter. And by the way, I wanted to caution you because you never know how many places you've given your data. People left, right, and center asking you to sign in. Sometimes you do that even when you're going to buildings and you're signing in your IDs and all that. That's still data that you're providing. But how safe is your data? How safe is whatever you left, your phone number, your email address, everything else? How safe is it? And now we have the just recently passed act in Parliament of the data protection and privacy. What does it mean? What does it really matter? And so these are the kind of questions that we hope to answer. And of course, what does it matter to you as an entrepreneur, as a marketer as well? And we want to appreciate as well the Marketing Society of Kenya that has really enabled us to have this conversation about our guests. Today, we have Bernard in the house, and Bernard is right here to help us understand this. This is Bernard Wambugu, and he's the chairman at Sauti Contact Center. He's right here with us, and we shall be joined as well later on by Felix Atandi, who's just stuck a little bit, but joining us later on to have this conversation. But as usual, let us first of all warm Bernard with something. Bernard, karibu sana.
Asante.
It's good to have you. It's good to see you here as well.
Thank you so much, Maina.
First things first, on this chest drawer, there's some variety, courtesy of Melvin's tea. I'd like you to select one, and I'll pour a cup of hot water for you.
No worries.
What are you going to have?
Well, Melvin's tea, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I am a lemon and mint person. So
okay.
Let's see where that is. That's green tea and mint.
Okay, that's what you have.
I'm good for that.
Please go ahead. You can make it as conk as you want. You can serve it too if you need.
Get it a bit conked up, huh?
Yeah.
All right, good deal. It's a good start to the morning.
No, you're right. And,
yeah.
you know, by the way, rarely do we consider what we are doing.
Yes.
Especially when we're giving our contact details.
Yes.
Our usual details about when you sign into buildings and the like. Sometimes I even feel like I have the right to say I don't want to sign. I feel like Tangawizi today. Tangawizi on my side.
You're going double, huh?
I'm going double.
Let me stick to my single.
Stick to your single. Yeah. So, you know, this is when people are realizing, by the way.
This is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
So to appreciate how big it is.
Yes.
So data has now become the new oil and gold. Right?
Yeah.
I think there is that cliche going out there. He who has the data, it used to be who has the gold.
Yeah.
The golden rule. If you remember, the golden rule was he who has the gold makes the rules, right? So
makes the
data has become that in the world. But unlike oil and data, oil and data has a finite end. Right? There is only so much gold.
Yeah.
There's only so much oil in the world.
Yeah.
But data continues to increase. In fact, every 3 years we are doubling the data in the world. That's how much data we're collecting.
Wow.
So the company in any industry, the company that has control and process the most data is most likely the top company in that field. And the fastest growing companies are doing that.
They have a lot of data. You're right, by the way.
A lot of data.
And there's a conversation of the fact that we are moving to a data-driven sort of marketing, data-driven business, because it sort of informs you what exactly you're doing and where you're really watching us from and the likes. But first, before I do that, let me welcome the people. Please tell us where you're watching us from. I'm waiting for those comments. Let us know where you're watching us from as well, so that at least we can get to interact on this. So share your comments, share where you are checking us in as well, and tell a friend to tell a friend as well, that they can grab this particular conversation and share it out as well.
There's a link out there that I can share as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just check out if you're on YouTube, Frontlight Media. Just Frontlight Media if you're on YouTube. And if as well you're on Facebook, you can check out my handle, MC Moments. I want to ask the team if you guys can share with me the link. It would be very nice to have it as well, so we can flow. So there you have it. So let me start by really asking you, Bernard, to tell us, when people ask you who Bernard is first, who do you say you are?
Well, I am father of 4, I spent most of my adult life in the growing family.
Yeah.
Spent most of my adult life in the U.S., Texas to be specific.
Mm-hmm.
But so over a 25-year career, I was focused on tech.
Mm-hmm.
I've been an entrepreneur, a business. I've led teams, technical teams,
mm-hmm.
to provide products that went out to various markets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very passionate about Africa and where we are today. I am passionate about entrepreneurs, especially African entrepreneurs. I think that the next frontier really lies in this continent.
Great.
We have a very young population, a
mm-hmm.
very skilled population. Mm-hmm. And so I returned 4 years ago to reconnect back to where I was born, and also to be able to passionately, with passion, and sincerity, try and get good products out to this market and beyond. So
you're right.
I'm so glad to be here. We can talk more about what else we do down the road, but that's
sure
who
thing.
I am.
Let me focus today on what you told me about yourself on Sauti Contact Test Center. And the question will be, what are you doing there? What does Sauti do?
So Sauti Contact Center was built with the whole concept of we want to help our clients, mm-hmm. Current and future clients, be able to serve their customers well, meet international standards, and be able to compete. So we are enablers. So we do everything from the startup or entrepreneur who's trying to work through a leads list and needs to convert customers. To the more complex of research companies that are trying to understand their market, trying to understand what it is their segments are doing, to logistics, healthcare. So real estate is a huge product for us. So anywhere where customers need to be served or acquired, or products and services need to be moved or provided, we are doing that. We do that on behalf of our clients to be able to do that. So we take great companies and we make them better. We take startups and we make them grow. We take marketing firms and we help them get their products out there using multi-channels. So whether it's calls, SMS, WhatsApp, Facebook, we manage all of that on behalf of our clients.
Let me ask a basic question of where is the place of the latest technologies we are seeing, if I may use it that? Because we have seen, I think for bulk SMSs, it's quite common. We have seen that happening. I didn't know you guys are the ones behind it, but anyway. But now we're moving to this era, and you've just mentioned like WhatsApp and the likes and all that. How is this being integrated? Because we're seeing advancements of technologies. Are you as a company as well just picking up on the go? Or what would you say?
So software has grown to where we are able to do a lot of things very quickly and very fast and propagate them quickly. So applications have become that good, and you don't necessarily have to over engineer. A lot of these things are already in place, but key to what is changing today is a product called artificial intelligence. And behind artificial intelligence is the whole concept that, and another word I'll add, which is machine learning, that allow companies to be able to quickly take data sets, figure out what they're doing. So you might think, we know about bulk SMSs, but the way we were doing bulk SMSs even just 3-4 years ago is so different today, because right now we can target better. We're able to send concise messages based on how customers are behaving and reacting and where they are and things like that. So those things are things we can quickly find out. So the pace of growth, like I mentioned earlier, we are doubling our data every 3 seconds in the world. Every 3 years, sorry, not 3 seconds. Every 3 years we double the amount of data we're collecting. So to process that, the companies that understand how to process that, manage that and use it lawfully, legally, and be able to disseminate that at the companies of the future. These are the companies that will own the future space for that.
One of the key questions that people would ask is, I'm a business person, or I work in a business setup and I'm in the marketing department, and I hear Saudi call center can help me reach as many millions as possible, you know? I want to believe, first of all, that's something that you help businesses do.
We do.
And, you know, first of all, what's your scale like, so that anybody who is watching and has been looking for solutions, I need to market myself out, can immediately run to you. What's your scale like, and is this something that you do for people?
Yes. So scale, we can scale anywhere from tens to millions, based on what the customers is asking of us. There is data acquisition that we're here to talk about data protection and privacy. So there are those laws that we have to ensure that are being followed. One, by our clients in how they're acquiring that data, and two, also by ourselves, by how we are processing and trying to move that data. So those things are things we are very conscious about. That's a topic I'm hoping here we can spend time, walk through and all of that, talk about the act and all of and those things. But the beauty is a startup can just come with great ideas. Usually most of them will have some form of understanding of who their leads and who their customers are, and we'll help them try and reach them. We'll help them try and reach them and try and converse with them. So that's number one. Number two is over the span of a company's growth cycle, we're able to scale with them. And it doesn't matter whether they're, doesn't matter where they begin, we are able to scale with them. And on top of that, they don't have to focus on areas that they may not do as well. A lot of companies prefer just to say, hey, you guys take over your customer service area, and we'll focus on building our product, or we'll focus on delivering our service to make sure our customers, one, are being kept happy, help us understand what they believe about their product, how they feel about our product, so we can be able to adjust to them. So we play that middle role for companies, and giving them time to scale, and giving them the bandwidth to do that.
I want to ask you the question of how you get this data on the likes, because I mean that's your tool, or the tool of your business. But let's talk about the people, the collection that you have. How we are talking about, because of where we are talking about the protection of data, and I'm about to move to that conversation. But this particular data that you have, are people who have okayed you to use it?
So let's jump into the Protection Act, because that's everything builds out of that. We have to adjust to the regulations that the country has set. And again, let's first appreciate why the law is necessary, right? It was clearly it's every country that is putting data protection laws out to protect the rights of its citizens. Right? And what does that mean? Protection of rights it gives you and I the ability to, one, consent to any data I've given out. I have to be able, I have to consent to it. One, I have to have the right to withdraw it, meaning, hey, I do not want my data, I don't want my information. I opt out, and all of that. So I have to be able to agree, and I can choose to withdraw at any time. And then, so that means the products you're building as entrepreneurs out there who are building these great products that will help us go to market, we have to be conscious of those rights. And so that then gives customers some assurance that they have a place to know that, hey, I can opt in and I can opt out of products. So when you build products, those things have to be there. As processors, that's the other part of the law. It moderates, regulates anyone who's processing or controlling data to ensure that they are acquiring it in the right methods, 2, protecting it. They have their securities in place to protect it from illegal use or from hacking and things like that. So those kind of things help the end user and help the companies that are building products be able to have a regulatory format that then allows an office. I think the other part of the Data Protection Act was to create an office that actually regulates all of this and can actually prosecute and actually can be able to go after companies that are doing it illegally. So when it comes now to our contact center, these are the key things we are ensuring. We just don't allow companies to bring, I see my colleague Felix is here. We don't just allow companies to bring data and say, hey, here's data and please use it to get to our customers, right?
That book at the gate.
We just don't allow it. Hey, Felix, how are you doing? Good.
Welcome, Felix. Felix is right here, and I'll be introducing Felix. But let's finish this.
So we're saying we're just not going to allow companies just to come and bring a data set and say, hey, here are my leads, go find them. You have to say, how did you acquire the data? How have these leads or have these customers consented to the use of those data? So we have to check those things before we ever do anything and document and put those things in our list.
We really hope that the expressway can start getting to this place. Felix, karibu sana.
Thank you.
So Felix, I have a cup for you here. As usual, we have to warm our guests. So allow me first of all to tell you, pole sana kwa baridi. And you will have a chance as well to choose from our chest of drawer of many cocktails here to choose something. I and Bernard have already started enjoying this. And guys, if you're watching us, this is a conversation about data protection and privacy. And as you've heard, one of our key guests as well has come in, and that's none other than Felix Atandi, Manager Cybersecurity at Cyber Tembo. Karibu sana, Felix.
Thank you for having me.
Please, this chest, you can just choose any of your choice there. If you feel like vanilla, if you feel like tangerine, if you feel like anything. And we have decided to be healthy, no sugar today. So just take it as it comes. So there you have it. Please tell a friend that this conversation is ongoing, and they need to learn this. But before I bring in Felix, Bernard, let's talk about registration, because you mentioned something about registration. Who needs to register, and what's the process? Because I know there was a deadline. Was it yesterday?
There was a deadline. Yes.
So what is all this about registration for the people who are watching?
So the DPA allows for companies that control data or to process it to need to register with the office of the Data Commission Office that then allows them to be able to do exactly what they're attempting to do, which is control and process data. That now allows the government office to understand who it is who's managing Kenyan citizen data, which is sensitive and which can be abused for that. So with the laws, which is now we are 3 years into the law now, we are starting now to put those controls in place, so we know who is actually using, controlling, managing our country's huge data mine. So that's what that registration is for.
And I want to believe you've registered, right?
Well, we were amongst the
first, right?
to be compliant.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. Let me bring in Felix. And Felix, first of all, a quick one for the sake of our viewers. Just quickly introduce yourself and what you do so that people can know.
Thank you for having me. My name is Felix Atandi. I'm a cybersecurity and data protection and privacy consultant. I work with Cyber Tembo, and previously, before I just joined Cyber Tembo, I was also the manager at Deloitte East Africa. Cybersecurity as well, and data protection and privacy.
Okay, great. And I don't know, what's your quick sentiments, first of all, on I think I'd just like to hear your overview on just what we're just talking about, the recent act. What's your quick reactions to it, and what's your message to anybody who's watching? From
where I sit, I think we're on the right track. Albeit a little bit behind schedule. So for the registration of data controllers and processors, at least that has already been flagged off, which was yesterday. Well, ideally it's not really a deadline, but the start date for this. Even the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner's office, the platform where people are supposed to register. I know people have been rushing to register there. You know how Kenyans do things. And the last time I checked it, I think it was it had a bit of issues. This is very well expected. A similar thing also happened to South Africa when the POPIA, which is their Privacy Act, there was. It took over, especially with the registration, and I think it was even down for almost 2 weeks. So I think we're still on the right track, as well as on data compliance and privacy, which is a very long journey. The registration is just part of it on the road to compliance on data privacy.
Okay, so my other question to you is this Data Act likely to influence the security of our data, whether positively or negatively?
Yes, it will impact on it positively. Remember, we already had a couple of other acts, the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act as well, and other guidance notes, especially from the regulators, the CBK, the Communications Authority as well. And that usually used to deal with a lot of data security. So ideally it's the controls you put in place to protect your data. Now the Data Privacy Act is now more of the rights to the data subject, especially on privacy. So ideally any information that will have personal identifiable information is what is being covered under the new act on privacy.
Okay. Let me ask the most basic question, and then Bernard, you can chip in as well on these questions. I have data that I've been using, you know. Maybe I just got people who give me contacts and the likes. Sometimes I do my bulk, whatever. And I'm just hearing this for the first time. There was a registration supposed to happen. What am I supposed to do with it? Should I be careful? Because I might find myself in from what you're saying.
Well, I think first, as an individual, you've been collecting your sourcing, different leads and all of that.
That's true.
The act is not really for you, the individual. I think it's mostly focused at corporations that are doing this en masse, right? That they are taking huge data sets of our citizens, sometimes unbeknown to them, and either using it for marketing and sometimes for, unfortunately, there's going to be illegal use of that data set. So the cyber crime that Felix was cybercrime security issues that Felix mentioned a bit in the policy are clearly to help one prosecute if anyone intends to use that illegally. But use correctly. Use correctly. The policy itself, the policies themselves, the regulations, could actually save lives. You know, like I mentioned earlier, I lived in a country where data privacy protection laws were in place for 25 years. So what that has done in the section, for example, in healthcare, allowed to save my own health history. So whether I go to Nairobi Hospital or Kenyatta Hospital, because those are they are legitimately following the law, they're able to use data sharing policies that allow my health history to go from hospital to hospital, and hopefully one day that is critical towards saving somebody's life or understanding conditions that they may have, because we have followed a set of regulations that allow the ones who should be moderating, controlling and disseminating data actually regulated. And that sometimes helps, and it works. And it hopefully keeps illegal use of our data from landing in the wrong hands.
You're right. You know, I'm saying this because I think we know the recent news. Someone is actually selling Chinese data. I don't know whether they have gotten a buyer or something, but the point is, you're talking about securities, and of late, I think in Kenya, I think it's just 2 years ago now, we give all our data, including the number of cows we have in the house and everything else, for the Huduma number. I have not received yet that card. And there are many questions, and there were so many questions that are coming now forth about how secure is this data. I think we've had people saying, oh, sometimes it was hacked into all that. I think, Felix, this one is already pointing at you. How safe is this data? And especially for a marketer or a business person who's seated somewhere saying, I got all this data and I don't want myself losing this, because anytime we have had incidences where things have gone haywire.
On data security, ideally, that's, as I explained before, that covers the controls, the technical controls you put in place, as well as organizational controls you put in place to protect your data. Ideally, to maintain the confidentiality, the integrity, and also later on make it available when needed. Well, I think I've said this before, that security is not a state, but it's a process. You'd never have full security measures to protect your data, but you can take measures to protect it per se. The example you gave for the Chinese data, that is very well captured actually in our Data Act, Data Protection Act, on data breaches. Data breaches do happen. There are mechanisms that you're supposed to follow. So for example, if you've lost your data, either to a malicious outsider or a malicious insider who sold your data, there's a mechanism you're supposed to follow. First, you're supposed to inform the regulator, which is the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. And then as you continue to mitigate and to see the impact of that data breach, you're also supposed to eventually communicate to the affected data subjects.
To let them know. You have to do it like within, 72 hours, right? To let the commissioner know. Do it within 72 hours and process. But can a bank be robbed? Yes. That means your data can be compromised. That is very possible. Which is why companies that audit and help you improve your data security aspects of whether it's government or private companies exist.
You know, let me just say this, and Felix, I think you've just alluded to it, and we had a conversation with you last week. The more we are embracing these new ways of doing things, the more I feel like we're getting unsafe. Because way back, it would be a file missing, you know? And somehow, somewhere, there was a CCTV would trace who took that file, something of that sort. But now, just at a click of a button, with those, there were ethical hackers and the others who are now the crazy ones, right? I don't know the other name. We might end up just losing it, and people can lose money. A lot of things
have lost money. The bitcoins have been stolen in the billions of dollars. It's a concern. Like I said, the internet wasn't built with security in mind. Let's remember, when it was first built, it wasn't built so that anyone would go and access this data illegally. It was built as universities doing knowledge sharing and trying to disseminate information. It wasn't built to secure that information. We thought about security much later in the process. So it's and like I said, we are doubling ourselves. We are doubling the world's data every 3 years. We double. So like oil, unlike oil and gold, which has a finite end, data continues to increase.
You're right.
And these are the realities that we are facing.
Let me come back to Felix, and I think you'll touch on that. But I also feel quite unsafe. Why? Just the other day, I was looking at, how I could install some of the solar lights that people are talking about. Just checking solar lights on Facebook. The next 1 week, I was getting all manner of adverts of people who are doing these solar lights and the likes, and I'm even thinking, hey, you guys, how do you even know? This is what I'm searching. I don't feel like, I feel like I'm being watched somehow by some people somewhere, and I need to be protected. I don't know whether this bill is going to do that, but comment on that, please. What's happening?
Yes, the internet is always watching. There are many companies out there that use data as their main selling point. So they're the data aggregators. And for you to be able to maybe look for a solar panel maybe on Facebook, then you get other messages on your other platforms. I don't know what that means is some of your data has already been shared with some of those platforms that you're able to access. You might have signed to give out that data without knowing. So ideally, when the first time you decided to use that platform, say Facebook,
accepting
or Instagram,
you're hitting accept
as part of getting onto the platform. Remember, even WhatsApp at some point last year, I also had a problem when they're trying to change their their data privacy policy, so that if you cannot accept if you do not accept giving out your data or giving permission for your data to be maybe given to other third parties, you cannot even use the platform. The moment you start using the platform, that is, yes. And remember, most of these social media platforms as well are usually free. So when something is free, you are the product. So ideally, for you to be able to see some of those advertisements on other platforms, when you're looking at it from another platform, let's say Google, that's how it works. So ideally, the Data Protection Act is able now to protect your rights, especially on your private information, and also maybe to give you an option to opt in or out, especially when your data is being used for advertisements, as well as protecting just ideally, in case that data also is transferred outside the country, there are measures to cover that. So ideally, your data should only be transferred to another country where there's a data protection legislation in place, ideally something similar to ours or even better.
An extradition agreements. But again, these same companies that Felix is talking about that are taking, some of them have gone to U.S. Congress and faced fines and because of taking and using data in ways they shouldn't. But overall, as an end consumer like yourself, myself, I think we all should be aware that even if the act does exist, we're still within our control on understanding how much we are releasing out into the internet. Be conscious, be careful. I think a lot of people just quickly browse, click past the terms and conditions, accept all, without really understanding what you're giving up in those moments. When you're saying, I want to use this app, and you click way past the terms and conditions sections, you don't understand what you're giving up, and then before you know it, your sections of data have been pulled into somebody's database. And it's everything from the type of phones you have, to GPS coordinates, to your contacts on your phone. So it's these things are accessible, and be careful about what you're releasing, the apps you're using, the content you're releasing. These things don't go away; they stay around. And data protection or not, there are people who don't have the right intention. Whereas we may be wanting the best for end consumers, there are people who want to do that to cause harm to the citizen population.
So, guys, what you're telling me is that if someone picks data, let's say, for example, they landed on a nice book that has a lot of contacts, and starts sending messages, this person is violating the law and could get himself behind bars or in the wrong arms of the law, right?
Yes, indeed. It covers both individuals as well as organizations, yes. And also remember, some of these rules, per se, like the Data Protection Act, is only there ideally to guide organizations when they are sharing some of this data. So even for them to follow those rules, they don't do it out of best interest or best practice. They just do it from a compliance perspective, that in case I do something that is not that is illegal under the Act, ideally maybe selling out your data or using your data for something else than what was intended when you're giving them permission. They're doing it from a compliance perspective, not for best industry or best practice perspective. And similarly, to individuals, that's what they do. You do something illegal in the hope that the law doesn't catch up with you, and unfortunately, the enforcement of this act, not even in Kenya, but in other jurisdictions, has been very slow to catch up. Yes, and also again, maybe just to add on the same, some of these big companies, Facebook, Google, and those social media sites. As much as they know some of these things would come out, they usually have a budget set aside. I'll give you an example. Maybe the Alphabet or Google has a $5 billion budget just in case the FCC or somebody comes after them.
To defend themselves or something.
Yes, it's budgeted for.
It has become more profitable for them to operate the way they know, and then put money aside in case something goes wrong. I mean, that's how profitable the business of data processing, management, dissemination is.
I'll come to you to talk about now the future of this all, but let's still, because we have addressed the person who wants to market to the people, but they need to be careful not just to receive data anywhere, anyhow. But what is the measure? If someone is giving them data, for example, like what Saudi has, what is this thing as a business person or as a marketer that I need to look at for me to know that this data they're giving me, or the people they're accessing, I am safe, I'll not get in trouble for reaching out to these people? What is this that they need to know? Is there a certification or something of that sort that they need to present out?
I think there are various layers onto that. So for you to get data from a data subject, there are principles in data protection that you are supposed to follow. For example, there's the data limitation, the purposefulness of the data, also the time you're supposed to hold that data, which is the data retention period. So ideally, for an organization, they should have structures in place and frameworks, policies, ideally to govern how that process is going to do, all the way in the data lifecycle. So how you collect that data, how you process it, how you store it, how you archive it in case you've already finished using that data, maybe for other purposes, maybe for audit, like for example, 7 years is what is required by the regulator, especially CBK, for financial audit. And also, in case you're supposed to destroy it, that you use the best methods to destroy data, because just formatting is not deleting data. The same way, if it was in physical form, just shredding it is not efficient. Is not enough. I mean, if somebody does dumpster diving, they'll be able to piece them back together.
Okay, let me ask her now, more personal question.
Yes.
Felix, I have your number. And then Bernard calls me, hey, I'm trying to reach Felix. And I share your contact to him. Am I safe? Or am I, in a way, stepped on something I didn't ask him, I just sent you.
You just sent it to me. But you did it one contact.
Yeah, is it going there, or that's not a zone that has been covered? It's just good, because you never know. People here can start benefiting from us anyhow.
Well, I mean, that has not been anticipated by the law.
Slippery slope. It's called intent of use. There is taking one contact and forwarding it to me, and then there is taking 100,000 contacts and forwarding them to me for me to do some outreach with, which is it's a whole different ballgame.
On the same note, Bernard, now, so then how can we, or the people, protect themselves? Because honestly, I think we're giving data without even knowing, as you said.
Right.
I mean, I just went, I needed to read this article, and then all those pop-ups that come up, you just want to go to the article straight on without really checking what you just accepted. Because some of them, if you, for example, decline, you'll not be able to access whatever you wanted. And I hear from next year, I think 2023, we're talking about going to a cookieless sort of world where there'll be not those kind of marketing that you're talking about, where people are just on your face, left, right, and center. But the main thing is how to really protect yourself as a consumer, someone who's giving out. What would you say is the most important thing to do or to check out so that you are not just being infringed as a person?
Sure. It's going to be in your phone. Let's start with how you behave with this gadget. This has become, it's no longer a phone. Per se, you're collecting more data on this unit than you're doing anything else. Everything known about you, per se, will find its way to relevant or irrelevant places through this unit. So how do you do that? You watch what you are allowing to be fed. So some people turn off their GPS, because that can be tracked by other applications that are running. So watching what you post, being careful about the sites you access. Are they reputable? Are they reputable sites? Not just jumping onto the latest app or gadget, giving it time to see how does it perform, how does it perform with other users. So just taking conscious effort in knowing everything that will end up in places that you don't want to be, usually start from this gadget. And how well you control that is how well or how well you'll do as far as information about you getting out there to the internet.
Okay. Yeah. Felix, I'm sure you get a lot of these questions as well. I'm sure you have a comment on that.
Yes. So, I mean, to protect your data, we interface a lot with people who are able to maybe to get your data. It could be the traditional way through the book, just the same way I just came in here, I had to sign in. And there's also now the gadgets, as he rightly put. So for the physical part of it, especially these books that you sign in to get into a building, you know, this will not be the best.
I can't wait for that.
Yes, so ideally what I usually do, I try and encrypt it manually. So what I mean is, when I put in my number, I change 1 or 2 values there, and my ID, if it's required as well, I change 1 or 2. It's manual encryption. But when using your gadgets, there are definitely various ways you're supposed to protect yourself. So when you're accessing some of these sites, you should be on the lookout on their cookie policy. So I think that's something everybody sees these days. When you go to a new website, it will give you a cookie banner there and tell you that we'll be using this data for this and this. Do you accept, or would you like to maybe modify the type of data that you give out? Usually people just say accept, but you're able to manage. When you click manage, it will take you to a new page, and it will give you the different types of cookies that they are collecting from you. There are functional cookies. They're the ones they really require for you to access that site, but the other ones are for marketing and everything else. So people should be on the lookout for that. You should protect your gadgets, either if it's a phone, if it's a laptop, or just any other electronic gadget, either by using strong passwords combinations, and also using some other applications. Like, for example, a phone. If you lose your phone, there's a risk of somebody being able to gather your data. So if you protected your phone, either using Face ID, PIN, thumbprint, or biometrics, that's the first step. You can also install some software so that if your phone is stolen, it is able to wipe that data remotely. So, for example, if somebody has stolen your phone and doesn't know your PIN, if they do a couple of tries, maybe say 5 or 10, it should automatically wipe that. Same thing happens with Find My Phone as well. You're supposed to be able to wipe it remotely. So, if by chance the phone is able to access internet, I don't know how, but if it's able to do that, it should be able to wipe it. I know Apple uses a different technology, even without the internet, just by proximity, using Bluetooth. And that's how actually the tag works, or Find My Phone works. If somebody has a similar phone and is able to pass near you, it's able to communicate with it and say, this phone has been here. Another way to protect your data is also not to use modified or unlicensed applications. I know I speak to a lot of people here who use modified WhatsApp.
They're using the GB WhatsApp product,
WhatsApp GB, WhatsApp FM,
thinking that while they're hiding from their friends and their contacts, that information is being acquired outside of WhatsApp from a product that WhatsApp doesn't need.
This is licensed. This is not.
People know. If you go to your Google Play Store, you'll get it. You'll get the original version. But people usually also know how to, because
they modified download.
The modified
download from their friends. They put it in. So that's key. And then let's remember, like today, where the average person with a phone, most of their data sits on their social media sites. So what happens is they go to these new sites or new apps, and then they're asked, okay, how do you want to sign up for this? And they say, using my Google account or using my Facebook account. And then the next thing is, this app will use these sets of data, and they just skip right through that. And all their Facebook data and all their, or most or some of their Google data gets moved into this new app as now a data source, right?
So you'd rather just create unique signups in whatever app that you're using, right?
Do things the way they were intended to be used. So if you're using
too smart,
if you're supposed to get your apps from the store, just get it from the store. There are ways where, let's say, for example, if you're using an Android phone, the Google developers or the Google security team has ways of looking out for some of these apps, because not every app is legitimate. Some of them are just used to collect data, and every day thousands of them are being blocked from the Play Store. But if you decide to maybe just go for the WhatsApp GB, just maybe because it has extra functionalities that WhatsApp is delaying to roll out.
They are trying to hide from their friends with all this new WhatsApp, or trying to do different things, but they don't realize what they are giving up to strangers is far worse than what they're trying not to give. So
let me get into some of the questions that I'm seeing, and first of all, to appreciate MSK, because they have enabled this conversation to happen, and I know they are tweeting, so please feel free to as well join into the conversation. Christine is asking, I think there's a question to Felix. Someone got my data and access to my social handles and email. Am I not able to retrieve them? And I'm not able to retrieve them. What should I do?
So actually this has been on the rise. Account takeovers, especially on the social media platforms.
All of a sudden, just like that.
And most of these people, when they do take over your account, the intentions vary. In the localized version of it, which is in Kenya, if somebody is able to get most of this data, I'll give a case example as I answer the question by Christine. Just recently there was a school, I think in Western Nyanza, where some of their data got lost, not electronically but the manual way. So this is what happens. When you go into the school, you have to sign in at the school gate. On a manual book, you say your name if you're a parent and the student you're going to see, and the purpose, maybe your other contact details. Somebody went into that gate to that school and tried to trick the guard who was there that I'm trying to get something, please can you go check? I don't want to get to the school, can you just confirm for me as I wait here? When the guard went, by the time he got back, the fellow had disappeared, and the book as well, the entry book. Now what the school did was actually very commendable. When the guard informed the school, the school took measures on notifying actually parents. So they also have another database in the registry. They contacted the parents of the children and told them that we've had a breach. One of the books that you usually sign in when you come in has been lost. Please to be on the lookout for any number that would be trying to call you, maybe to con you. And actually some of the parents who had received that message confirmed that somebody had called them. You know, those messages where they say, "Mtoto amemwona nyoka, tuma pesa." So that person went name by name, because ideally they know for each parent that has come there, they have a student in that school. So they say, your name is this and this, your student is this, please send some money, there's an emergency. And that's how they were able to mitigate some of it. If they are not told the parents, I think it will have been, the impact will have been far much worse. Now coming back to the social media handles, what people do is they use very weak password username combinations, yes? Somebody uses, maybe their password is something drawn from their name, you know, which is very weak. So some of the attacks people use to access these sites, I'll give an example, it's called a dictionary attack. So you try many combinations, you know the username but you don't know the password. So you try many combinations until you're able to get that password. And some of them use very weak password, like for example just the name password itself. There's usually a top 10 list of
most used passwords. And the most used password is password.
It's password.
Maybe with 1, 2, 3.
Just password,
yes.
right?
With 1, 2, 3.
That's
the most used combination. Password.
So it is very well. Some of these social media sites have put ways of how to recover your account. If you can just Google, maybe if it's Facebook, just go to Google how to recover my Facebook account, and make sure that you go to the link that has been approved by Facebook, not just some funny blog or you know, because some of these people they misadvise people. Now to protect your social media accounts, said use a strong password. You can use multi-factor authentication, ideally using a one-time code as well, so that if you log in from a new place or a new location, you're able to use your password as well as maybe a one-time password or a Google Authenticator device or a Microsoft Authenticator app. It's able to give you a code. And some of these people, in fact, most of these accounts which are being hacked from without the border, you'll find that they use those accounts maybe to spread misinformation, as well as to sell bitcoins, you know.
Especially or to ask the members for money within their accounts.
Yeah, so they send your friends messages telling them, it's like this, please send some money to this number. Okay. Yeah. So if I was your friend on Facebook and I got a message from you saying, Felix, please send please send me 10,000.
My phone. Send money to this number for that. But again, as Felix said, the lady needs to start recovering her account. Most times they'll even change the email address. So the first thing when they access, change the email address so that if you try to recover, the reset password doesn't go to the original email, it goes to the new email. So this is why having what Felix said, that two-factor authentication, so that every time you put in a password, you also get a code on your phone, or you're required to use one of those authentication apps.
You're right. There's a question here, Bernard.
Yeah.
In telemarketing, I think is telemarketing not going to be as easy? I think, let me just try to rephrase what
Sure.
Bernard, in telemarketing is not going to be as easy as bulk SMS. I think you get whatever they're trying to say. How will guys seek approval in different avenues of bulk marketing?
Yeah, so to seek approval is first of all to go through what the DPA law says within the 3 years. I think that's what he's asking. Just ask that last question. How will
guys, let me just read it again. How will guys seek approval in different avenues of bulk marketing?
So again, that's somebody who's now either not processing data information, so definitely falls under the DPA Act, which requires registration to be able to actually do that going forward. That's what the law is intended to do. Now, to get there, to get the registration, to be able to do now bulk SMS and things like that, does require that you show intent of use. You know, how are you gathering the data? What's the intent of use? Minimizing of what you're the intent of the data you're trying to communicate to your end users. So it does require registration, which is the right thing to do, which is something that wasn't happening, now has to happen, which is good. It prevents the end users from getting unnecessary SMSs that they don't need to get for information that they may not have signed up for. It should make it harder, which means it allows us who are controlling and processing this data to pay more attention to the end customer and what they are receiving, to ensure that it is something they accepted and they can choose not to accept anymore.
And maybe just also to add on the same, there's the aspect of consent. So for you to be able to receive some of these SMSs, you have to give consent for your data maybe to be given. Now, for those people you do telemarketing or even bulk messaging, I know it's a very thin line on how, for example, let's say, for example, I've gotten a data set of data for people in this demography, let's say Westlands, and I'm supposed maybe to send them messages maybe for political reasons, or maybe to tell them that we open a new shop. You can send maybe the first time, but now on that message, there has to be an opt-in, opt-out functionality.
The word stop has to be there, and if you actually put in stop,
it should work.
It should work. Now the problem is, today people have tried a lot. I practice all these things on different messages I get, and I type in stop. I still get the same message.
It's not working.
So it's not working. That's the violation aspect of it.
And actually, many people do violate that. The problem is they just do it just as a checkbox. So for example, if I say stop, I send a message stop to maybe that number that sent me the shortcode number. It should be, the functionality should be also on the back end, so that if it is able to identify the people who have sent stop and then remove them from the database. Similarly to when you receive emails on marketing, there's somewhere you're supposed to click if you do not want to unsubscribe. And I think that is more, it's quick, and if you click and subscribe, maybe if they're using maybe MailChimp or another application maybe to send out these promotional messages, it will remove you from the database, so you'll never receive that message again, that promotional message. And the problem is now with USSD and the telephony messages. They should be able to follow it up, because if they do not, again, you will find one day somebody with enough money and time, and they'll take them to court and sue them to the high heavens.
And they should,
Okay.
So,
There's another question here. I don't know if it's directed to how safe or unsafe is incognito mode for browsers?
Yes. So ideally, what incognito mode does, it stops some of these things that would ideally give out your information from the main browser. That means the cookies. Now, what cookies is information that is stored on your browser, so that the next time you try to access that site again, you'll not start all over again. It will be able now to remember, let's say for example, you like this type of pair of shoes, your shoe number is number 13. It will help you so that the next time you access the site, you're able to go back, and also helps the people who collect some of this data, because they use some
target
and trackers as well to target you better. Okay. So what incognito mode does is it stops the use of cookies and trackers, and when you finish using that browser, it deletes that specific type of data. Okay. You can do it manually on a normal browser, but it's very long. So what incognito mode does is just automates it. So by the time when you finish using that window, if you close it, it's done. It gets lost.
So the reputable browsers, that works very well actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Guys, guess what? It's 9:03. But before we end it up, I'd like to sort of like throw it to you, and I'll start with you, Bernard. You know, business people are watching. We are in this new era of this act that has already passed. People need still to have precision marketing through data. I don't know what is your last statement to anyone who's watching, whether it's a marketer, whether it's a business person. What would be your last statement to them?
Sure. Yeah, so first, thanks to your audience, Felix, Maina. It's good meeting you guys. So to entrepreneurs who are in marketing and trying to grow their businesses, regulation is good. It's good for the country. It's good for our citizens. It allows a level playing field for us to be able to send products and services to the market. But doing it with regulation does count. At least at the very basis of growing a business is, one, trying to be in regulation means taking care of data sets for customers, because if you are intent on growing your business, you have to pay attention to your customers and ensure that they are being treated fairly, fair use of whatever it is they're providing to you. Use it within the laws. It doesn't restrict you from doing any more aggressive marketing than you've been doing. Just have to do it within good regulations. It allows you to think about security of what of the data that you're collecting, and be able to reach your customers in ways that they find appropriate, so that you are targeting the customers who want to use your product and services. So regulation is good. There's nothing wrong with it. Just evens the playing field. To the end user, it makes you more conscious about who's collecting your data, how they are using it, where they are using it, and whether they are storing it, and hopefully that they are taking good care of the data that you're entrusting to them. Just be careful with your devices. Like I said, that phone is about as critical to our lives today as any time in history. Be careful with what you're putting out there. Take protective measures, locking it, ensuring you understand things like we just talked about two-factor authentication or multi-authentication pieces that help you be able to control ensure you're not compromised. So take care of that. Just spend more time thinking about these things. So it's good. So I would recommend we try and be fully compliant, and try and see how we grow the next 20, 30 years, because data is not going to get any less. It will become more and more ingrained into us. These are our new realities that we have to contend with.
Okay. Lovely. Felix, let me come to you now. What's your last call to action, especially for people watching? when businesses and even individuals?
Thank you. My parting shot, especially to marketers, they do use a lot of personal data. Yeah. So ideally, what I would like to maybe tell them is to have a robust content management platform. So ideally, just to cover how they manage content with their target market as well as their customers. Mm-hmm. The Data Protection Act has given some requirements that people are supposed to follow, so that ideally, when they are processing data, they're on the right side of the law. So ideally, compliance, as my colleague has said, is very important. And part of it is being registered as a data processor or a data controller. Yeah. So ideally, you should be looking out for people maybe in the legal fraternity or in the data protection fraternity to maybe guide them on how to achieve compliance, yeah, which is a very long route, and registration being one of them. So ideally, they should know where they are, which is a current state assessment, knowing what controls they have, what type of data they process, then compare it with what the Act is actually asking for. So some of the requirements is also to have a data protection officer, yeah, which is very good. The data protection officer will be the single point of contact or the go-to person, yeah, on matters data protection in case the regulator comes calling or if an audit sweep comes calling as well. They should also have a platform where they should that will ideally give data subject access requests and implement them. Mm-hmm. So if a data subject would want maybe to know what type of data you have, you should have a platform that is readily available to them. Yeah. If they want their data to be deleted, you should also have a mechanism for the same, mm-hmm, either using a dedicated platform or even using emails, yeah, but they should be able to follow it through the data lifecycle. On data security, as I said before, use strong passwords. Do not use modified applications, yeah, especially on WhatsApp. Mm-hmm. Those people like watching maybe, for example, football matches or F1 races
without paying
paying with it, yeah, especially so if you go to those free websites, be always on the lookout. Yeah. I do not advocate for that as well, but if you really have to go to some of these websites, you should use plugins that protect you. So for example, if you're using a browser, I think an ad blocker would be very important, because some of these sites have clickbaits and clickjacks. So if you try to click something, it will take you to another site. If you have an ad blocker, I think it will be the first measure of security. I think that is it.
Feels like it's jargon, man. Every day it gets complicated at all.
It will.
But thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. And to all our viewers, sorry we took a bit of your time, but this is an important conversation. And I don't know, by the way, Felix, yes, how come you use, you have a phone you use, there's like a phone, is it with you? Felix still uses a 1990.
A feature phone, yes.
I wonder why. Why do you still use that? Just one sentence, you cannot release all the secrets, but why?
Yeah, so for example, I'll give you a reason why I use yes, the two phones. Yes. This is my main driver phone, yes, which is a feature phone, Nokia. Yeah. For obvious reasons, it's not able to give out most of this data. It doesn't connect to the internet, okay, and it has my main number. Okay. And I use only this for WhatsApp and these other things. It doesn't have a SIM card as well, yes, but it has a different number on my WhatsApp as well. So usually when you give somebody your number, or you write somewhere a number, or you pay an Uber driver, yeah, you wouldn't want to get a WhatsApp message later on following you up. So that's the reason why I use two different phones.
Okay.
As part of security as well.
I don't comment on that. But you can tell how much guys are going for.
The cyber security man is using what do we call this? Feature tells you everything you need to know about, yeah, the security of our data and how much space we need to cover, yeah, before we are in a place where we're uncomfortable with the data sets. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much, gentlemen, once again. I just want to give a shout out to the Marketing Society of Kenya for really driving this conversation and even helping us even access the amazing gentlemen you're seeing here. And if you want to really get more from them, you can always check out the hashtag Data Protection KE or the hashtag MSK Talks Data Protection. This is an ongoing conversation. It's fresh and new as well, but we're saying you better not be found, pants down. So you want to be ready and just doing the necessary regulations that you're supposed to do. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry we couldn't answer all your questions today because of time, but a shout out and I appreciate you. See you next week, same time, for another different conversation.